The 2025 Gold Cup is super important for Canada. That's what we're going to be talking about today. My name is Elijah, and welcome to. We did do a similar video like this for the Jamaican national team, but now it's Canada's time to shine because although, yes, we're big supporters of Jamaica on the channel, I do think Canada deserves some spotlight for this upcoming Gold Cup because it is hugely important for the Canadian national team up north. Before I get into it though, make sure to subscribe and leave a like down below for more Gold Cup and Canadian national team content. But let's just get right into it. The first reason why I think it is super important for Canada to do good at this Gold Cup is it's the last chance to win something before the 2026 World Cup. Now, yes, there are some friendlies that are going to be going on. Now, I don't think we have anything confirmed yet for the Canadian national team, but if it goes the same route as the USA or Mexico, they should be getting some pretty good opponents for that upcoming World Cup, which is, again, if you don't know, going to be at home in Canada, Mexico, and the United States of America, making it hugely important, and they have to be prepared, meaning they should have some good friendlies. The Gold Cup, I believe, it is the last official tournament or set of games, competitive games for that matter, before the World Cup. So let's recap kind of what Canada's been going through the past few years, right? At least the past, year and a half, I give or take. Canada has definitely been on the up. I mean, you cannot deny that whether you're a Canadian national team fan or you're a fan of any other Concacaf team or a fan of soccer in general, whatever. If you're paying attention at least a little bit, you know Canada has generally been on the up, right? And that all started when Jesse Marsch went to the Canadian national team and they had a really good showing at the Copa America 2024, where they did make it to the semifinals. And that was great. Don't get me wrong. That was absolutely phenomenal. As a Concacaf football fan, I enjoyed watching that tournament a lot, especially because our boys, Jamaica, and the USA for that matter, didn't really do much. They made it to the semifinals. They had some pretty good games. They played against great opponents and showed that they belong in the top two conversation of CONCACAF football, which they never really have been before. At least it's been a long time, if you could say even that. They just haven't. They've always been at the very best third place. They play in the Nations League after that, where they lose to Mexico and they finish in third place after they play the U.S. men's national team. And again, third place in the Nations League isn't the worst if you're in like the UEFA Nations League, in my opinion. But the CONCACAF Nations League, as Canada, you should be, at least in this moment in history, at least in the final right now, right? And yes, you might think I'm setting Canada up with some pretty high expectations, but that's just a level that Canada's at. They have one of the best rosters in the entire region, arguably on paper, number two. Behind the USA, I think the USA still has a better roster overall. Now, yes, I know it doesn't work as a team for the Nations League or for CONCACAF for that matter, but Canada on paper has a great team that has players playing at some top clubs in top form who are going to be moving to better clubs pretty soon. Canada has a great team. I'm sure you guys know if you're watching this, they just have a great team. So with that being said, final is the bare minimum at this point for Canada. Yes, you can fight in third. The Gold Cup might be different, but you have to be in and around there, especially with the state of the USA and Mexico, which is why this Gold Cup is that much more important, because I think the time is coming, right, where we have to kind of question the Canadian national team and really ask what their ceiling is. Now, don't get me wrong, and I'm going to be harsh in this video, I think, just for the sake of being realistic and for, the sake of the video. That's how the video should be, in my opinion, if you want to be realistic about their chances in the Gold Cup. I do think that the questions need to be asked about, can they be a team that wins titles in CONCACAF? And I do think so. I don't get me wrong, I really do think so. But it's really hard to back that claim up without any evidence to support it. Now, yes, again, they have been in this golden generation of Canadian football for just a little bit of a short time. A short time, yes. And there are many years where they have the opportunity to win titles. But let's talk about this right now, and because the Gold Cup is right now and the World Cup is next year. I think Canada need to kind of put their foot down if they want to be considered a top two nation, which on paper, metaphorically speaking, I think they are. And I'm going to be honest about something with that, right? With that kind of ranking, is that for a while, for a little bit at least, I thought Canada was top number two, if not number one, because of their own fruition, because of that Copa America performance. And then they played very well in the friendlies against Mexico and the USA afterwards. I just thought Canada was looking good. They were getting dual nationals. They had big players on the biggest stages in the world, and it was looking good. Now, I kind of want to put Canada in the top two at the very worst as a result of the other federations not being as good, right? And if you see what I'm saying, right, it's not bad for Canada for me to say that necessarily. I just think Canada should be a top two, if not the best, based on their own fruition. And again, because the USA and Mexico, at least the USA, Mexico's kind of on the up right now, don't get me wrong, but the USA has just been so bad recently that it kind of forces Canada to be up there, because you can't really, I mean, you could put Panama in the top four if you want, which I would, maybe even top 3 over the USA, but it's still not enough to put them over Canada for me. I think Canada do need to be up there, but that now is a result of the USA not being as good. Can they compete when the USA is on top? I don't know, and that remains to be seen. But again, that's why this Gold Cup is super, super important for them, because they need to stake their claim at the top of CONCACAF. And I'm not saying that because I don't think they can do it. I think they can very well can do it, but they have to do it. Like, it's not just on paper you can do it, like you have to do it, right? And that's why the Gold Cup is super important, because without this Gold Cup, you can't really do that until the next Nations League, which I think would be after the World Cup. And that's a long time. By the time this conversation is going to grow stale, we're not going to be talking about Canada in the highest of highs anymore if you're not pulling in results. And I think, again, I think they can. I'm not trying to shit talk Canada here as a national team. I just do think that they need to start bringing in titles. And I'm going to use that to segue into my second point here, and that's Jesse Marsch. Let's talk about Jesse Marsch a little bit. Now, I think Jesse Marsch has been absolutely phenomenal for the state of Canadian football. What he has done by coming into the Canadian national team, and just not even like for the team as a manager for the team, but for Canadian football overall, from the lowest to the highest ranks in the country, I think has absolutely been phenomenal. And, I know that Canadian national team fans are very happy with him and very proud of him. And as an American, I am too. I think he's done great things for the Canadian national team. But is it time to have somewhat of a tough conversation? I don't think so. I think he has a lot more time under his belt to take into account. But I think if we start seeing more lackluster, for better terms, or disappointing for that matter, performances under Jesse Marsch, his position is going to grow into question. And that's undoubtable. You cannot say it won't. That's just the nature of football with any team, even for any club, for any national team, for any youth division, anything like that. If the coach isn't bringing in results when they're expected to, questions are going to get asked. His seat's going to get warmer and warmer and warmer. Now, I'm not going to say he will get fired if they don't win this one, but let's say they finish in the semifinals, or even worse, the quarterfinals as a Canadian national team. At some point, it's going to have to be kind of asked, well, whose fault really is this? Now, Jesse Marsch, I think, is a great manager. I think would have been huge for the U.S. men's national team, and I'm glad he got the opportunity to go up north. There needs to be someone to put the blame on, excuse me, and that might unfortunately be Jesse Marsch. Again, I'm not saying this because I want Jesse Marsch to get fired, or I do think that this was going to happen right away. I just do think if they lose this one in an embarrassing way, it's going to pile on just a little bit. Now, the Nations League, again, this year's Nations League was a little bit disappointing. I think you can all agree with me on that. The Canadian national team should have done a lot better. This Nations League was very, very disappointing overall for the Canadian national team, and I had them as my favorites to win it overall. And so to finish third was kind of, a little lackluster, don't get me wrong. Gold Cup, I think they're still one of the favorites, if not the favorite, maybe in some sense. This is before the June friendlies or June qualifiers, so I can't fully say that yet until we get around to the time in about a month or so. But the Canadian national team, I think, is up there. We're 100% a top 2 favorite, right? So you go into another tournament as favorites. You maybe, and again, this is just for the sake of conversation, maybe they lose. Again, it's going to look interesting for the Canadian national team. So I do think that is a big reason, not for Jesse Marsch too, and the Canadian national team. I think Jesse Marsch needs to have a good tournament, because he had one good tournament, and that's about it. You don't have World Cup qualifiers to prove yourself. You only have these one-off tournaments here and there. And then if he can't do it here, he has to do it in the World Cup. And, I'm not going to say they can't do it in the World Cup. I do think they can. But if that's the next opportunity, and that seat might be a little warm at the end of it all. So Jesse Marsch, I think, needs to have a good one too, and this reflects on him as well. And then the third reason why they need to have a good one is to remain in the dual national pool. Now, Concacaf lives and dies by the dual national player, very similar to the Asian Federation, where the dual national player is hugely important for many federations. Now, for Mexico, for USA, for Canada, for Jamaica, a lot of these teams aren't, I wouldn't say heavily reliant on them. Depends on a case-by-case basis. Jamaica is pretty reliant on them, but it improves the team vastly if you bring in a good one. Now, Canada just brought in Promise David and Daniel Jemison. Those are 2 great dual national pickups for the Canadian national team and for any team in CONCACAF. But at some point, you have to show that you're a team people want to be willing to go to, right? People want to be excited to represent Canada, whether they grew up in Canada or not, or have very loose ties. You want every player involved to be involved emotionally with the Canadian national team. If the Canadian national team can't really get it going and doesn't demonstrate that they're a good team to be a part of, because they can't win or have no success, then you might start losing out on a lot of dual nationals. There are a lot of dual nationals out there that can represent Canada, but can also represent the USA or a European team or an Asian team or whichever other national team in the world, if you are not a good destination to come to, no one's going to come to you, right? So I think winning the Gold Cup 2025 or having a really, really good Gold Cup will still make sure that you're maintained at the top of the board in Concacaf and would bring players that are interested. A bit of a tease to come over here, right? If you can show that you can be successful in the Confederation, then players are going to want to play for you. Players are going to want to come play for Jesse Marsch and represent Canada and demonstrate that the Canadian national team is on the up still. I'm not saying they're not, but at some point they need to still kind of prove it, right? I think it's really hard to be a team in CONCACAF that's not the USA and Mexico because the past, like 30 plus years, it's really just been the USA and Mexico. Canada did win a Gold Cup at one point. You get teams that are involved in the finals here and there, like Panama, Jamaica, Costa Rica, things like that. But I do feel bad for teams that are not the USA or Mexico just because it's really hard. Now, I say that because it's also pretty evident that once a team is getting more and more involved in that realm of success, or at least fighting going, head to head with these teams, I think we kind of exaggerate where they are relevant to the rest of the field. And form is vastly different than a team's quality over time. I'm not saying Canada is not a good team. I'm not saying Canada will not be viewed upon later down the line as a great team. But at what point do we consider it form, right? Now, I think having good tournaments past that Copa America will really demonstrate that Canada are here to stay. And I made this video as an encouraging thing. Now, again, I'm not trying to shit talk Canada or anything, but I do think that in order for them to be involved with the top three and really state the claim and not have anybody doubt the fact that they're involved alongside Mexico and the USA, that they need to have a really good Gold Cup 2025. And of course, if you agree with me or disagree with me, let me know in the comments down below, because again, this is really, really important for them. And without one, like I mentioned earlier, I think we're going to have to start asking questions at some point about the validity of a few different keys about the Canadian national team. Now, again, I love watching this team. I think they're a great team individually and a great team as a team. Don't get me wrong. But, at some point, it needs to be asked, is this the best they could do? A semifinals appearance in the Copa America, which, don't get me wrong, again, it is great. Mexico and the USA and any other CONCACAF team couldn't do that. But if that's the ceiling that Canada can reach, it really is, I don't want to say worrying, but interesting, and an interesting storyline to look at for the future, just because so many things can change. And if that's where you want to be as a nation, is fighting alongside some of the best in CONCACAF, great, but you want to be the top, right? And I think Gold Cup 2025 is a huge opportunity for Canada to reascertain that they are at the top. So like I said, if you agree or disagree with me, let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like if you want more Gold Cup or Canadian national team content. And yeah, make sure to help us out by subscribing. We're trying to hit 3K as soon as we can, and we're going to pump out as much more content as we can for you guys over the next few weeks. So make sure to stick around. My name is Elijah. Like I said, this was hopefully see you guys in future videos. Take care.